Okay, this is Mike Benoit, and I'm talking about my case some more about the IRS stealing my house through the district court with the help of the district court. Tyrants abound, and we're going through some of the due process issues. A couple in this series, or part two, we're dealing with discovery abuses from the government. Now, and this is part 2A. So in part two, I covered this ground a little bit. I'll cover a little bit more. We're going to be reading Judge Adler, Magistrate Judge Adler's decision regarding a discovery complaint that I had earlier and that he ordered the government to answer. And he speaks to that order here. He says on December 9th, 2009, an order was issued addressing a discovery dispute that had been presented by the court by way of a joint motion pursuant to the court chamber's rules. Benoit sought further responses to interrogatories and document productions, contending plaintiff's responses were insufficient. The court found plaintiff had sufficiently responded to all interrogatories and document production requests, with the exception of interrogatory 11. Now, this was actually going to be a pretty powerful interrogatory. If they answered it, I would have great information, information of huge magnitude to be able to take up against them. But here's the interrogatory. It calls for plaintiff to identify which sections of the Internal Revenue Code imposes a tax on his property or any activity that is subject to this lawsuit. Excuse me, on me, my property, or any activity that was subject to the lawsuit. The supplemental response was this: pursuant to, in accordance with the court's order dated December 9th, 2009, the United States identifies the following sections of the Internal Revenue Code that are applicable to this matter. And then there's a list of codes. Now, of course, they answered this, that these are the codes that are applicable to this matter, and the interrogatory was for the Internal Revenue Code for the IRS to identify which sections of the Internal Revenue Code impose a tax on me, my property, or any activity. What sections? They answered, these are the sections that are applicable to this matter. They didn't answer, these are the sections that impose a code that impose a tax on Benoit. They say these are the sections that are applicable to this matter. Well, of course they aren't. I mean, maybe they're applicable to this matter, but they're not the code sections that impose the tax. Benoit's arguments to the contrary, the supplemental response is sufficient. Plaintiff has now identified what sections of the Internal Revenue Code it claims imposes a tax on Benoit. Now, they're not making that claim. They're saying that these are the sections that relate to this matter. But Judge Adler decides that they are, I mean, maybe this legalese I don't get or something here. But Judge Adler is saying that they answered the interrogatory. They're saying that the IRS has identified sections of the Internal Revenue Code it claims imposes a tax on Benoit. While Benoit argues that identified code sections do not impose a tax, whether the tax code section Benoit, the plaintiff claims impose a tax on Benoit, actually create tax liability, goes to the rest of the merits case, or the rest of the plaintiff's case, to the merits of the plaintiff's case. So, yeah, I guess if I got to a court, then I could certainly bring that up. And you know, when I'm talking to witnesses in the courtroom and say, where's the code section, or that you answered this code section, this interrogatory this way, and you say these things impose a tax on me, and then go by through each one independently, and we'll be able to show a jury that they do not impose a tax on me. But so that instead of the judge looking to see if they answered the substance of the interrogatory, because I'm complaining that they don't. And I mean, that should be as plain as the nose on your face that they didn't answer the interrogatory. They answered a different interrogatory. They act like my interrogatory was, please identify the sections of the Internal Revenue Code that are applicable to this matter. That was not my interrogatory. My interrogatory was, please identify the code sections that impose a tax on either my person, my property, or any activity I might be engaged in. That's what I was asking from these people for, not code sections that are applicable to this matter. A bunch of those code sections are just definition code sections. So, but the judge is saying, well, you know, yeah, they answered it. Yeah, they said that these sections impose a tax. They didn't say that. It's as plain as the language right there. But they don't have to, I guess, because, you know, it's you against the government there. So now let's see, got something else. This stuff gets a little bit out of order, and I don't know if I covered it before, but trying to explain that these guys are not answering my interrogatories and they're not answering my requests for documents. And I guess I covered that in part 2, so I won't do too much here. But I put an objection in here regarding the judge's orders in regards to whether or not my interrogatories were answered. So I filed this objection with the district court judge, not the magistrate judge, and I showed evidence. When they said that their interrogatory 10 was answered by identifying all documents classified as assessments, the government lists a bunch of documents. And but they were supposed to identify all documents classified as assessments. So in my objection, I list these documents. I submit these documents as evidence, and none of them are classified as an assessment. So I'm proving to the court that they didn't answer the interrogatory. But you guessed it, Chester? That's no good. That doesn't help me either. All right. And then, so that's that on this one. Trying to get discovery. No such luck. So the next video I'm going to do will be part of the series of part 3, and that'll be on my motion for summary judgment, showing the government has no case. With no underlying assessments, how can there be a case? If there's no code section that imposes a liability, I mean, they don't have any assessments, where'd they come up with money that I owe them?